Hello and welcome to It's All Good. Lucas here for a chat. My name is Denise Bilil and I'm a serenity expert and positive intelligence specialist. I'm so happy to have you here today, and I have my amazing guest here today, Linda Manning, and I'll tell you a little bit more about her later. Am I doing those shows, and what's your role into those shows? Well, first, I would love for you to say hello if you come into this conversation and say hi in the chat. Also, I'd love for you to, if you watch that in replay, you could do hashtag replay so that I know that you've watched it. And then you can comment also. If you go through this recording after it's been done and you would love to comment or say a few things, and ask question to Linda or myself, I would love for you just to do that, because we go through the chat afterwards. We're being notified when you pass a comment, and then we can talk. If you're watching this on YouTube, I'd love for you to subscribe to my channel and click on the little bell so that you can be notified every time I upload a video. The reason why I call this show It's All Good, well, it's pretty simple. It's not because of my cup, but it's on my cup. And I realized as I was living my life, and my cup was saying it's all good. And it's something I say all the time. It's all good because whatever happened yesterday, I can't change it. So, hey, it's all good. And what's going to happen tomorrow, I can't predict it. So, hey, it's all good. So, because my life, I try to live it as much as possible to where I am today. And when there's something a bit negative happening, I'm looking for, oh, what's the gift in that? And be curious about what can happen in the future. So, let me introduce you, Linda. Linda is a transformational coach and healer. Our topic today is options include intuition, spiritual relationship and parenting, and limiting belief. I think we all have limiting belief in one way or the other. So understanding how limiting belief or stories from the past impact us today. So let me tell you about her. Linda Manning is a coach, healer, and spiritual adventurer with over 25 years of experience helping clients transform their life. She taps into guided wisdom, which allow clients to shift how they interpret events so that they can let go of the past and create a happier future. That's why we get along very well, because I'm like, hey, the past, it's past. You gotta heal that. So Linda combined grounded wisdom with spirituality and sight, acting as a bridge between the practical and the spiritual world. She is the founder of Inner Clarity Consulting, where she teaches courses on intuition and helps clients connect more deeply with themselves and others. She hosts the podcast Trust Your Wisdom. So let me help you, and round of applause for Linda. Here she is. Welcome, Linda.
Thank you,
Such a
Denise.
pleasure to have you here today.
Thank you. Happy to be here.
Thank you. So, do you have anything else you'd like to say before we get started?
No, I agree with you that, a lot of the work that I've done is around the stories that people tell themselves.
Mm-hmm.
And that in some ways the past, it can still be very present in our lives. And that is why it's so important to heal it, right? If the past was actually stayed in the past where it belonged, we might be okay, but it often leaks into our present until
Yeah,
we
I
heal
found
it.
that often people have big weight on their shoulders. And I've experienced also with my clients, and I'm sure you have with yours, that whenever you can release that burden of the past, people feel so much lighter.
Yeah.
And they're it's like their eyes open, their horizon open, they're open to receiving new things, because sometimes our bag is full and there's no room to add more stuff, right?
Yes, that's absolutely right.
So
And
tell me,
yeah,
how
yeah.
did you become a healer? So what made you decide to become a healer?
It's a good question. And, everyone's got their own story and their own path. And for me, it really felt like a calling almost, like I was drawn to it. So I had wanted to become a clinical psychologist. That's what I studied in college. And after working, doing kind of therapy kinds of things for a few years, I was like, I didn't want to be a clinical psychologist. So I didn't know what I wanted to do anymore with my life. And then ended up starting to design and teach classes in organizations. And I loved it, but there was like this spiritual longing in me. There was this just pull for more. And one day, literally out of the blue, I mean, I'm sure it wasn't, but it felt like it. I was like, I need to get Reiki certified.
Mm-hmm.
And I had heard about Reiki, I think 7 years earlier. I hadn't been interested, but all of a sudden I was like, this is my time. And I searched around and I found someone and I got Reiki certified. And that was actually the beginning of my path on using energies and kind
Mm-hmm.
of working in that way. And I started doing Reiki. I would do it like 3 times a week with groups and just learned so much about how to read energies and how to heal people. So that was the beginning of my path. It sort of took off from there.
Amazing. That's great. Like I'm also a Reiki masters, and I can understand. Like I've met a lady, for myself, she was in a trade show, right? Like those kind
Mhm.
of health
Yeah.
fair.
Uh-huh.
And she was there, and we connected, and then I took some courses with her, and it was just I really enjoyed it. It's a very great way of doing that. And but then from where did you go from becoming a healer into working with the spiritual world and this part
Yeah.
of the work that you do? So what was your path towards that?
Yeah, that it's an interesting question because, it was for me, it was like a slow build. Like some people I think have a super dramatic event. I was interviewing someone who got hit by lightning. Some people have really dramatic events, but for me it was more a longing. Like I always loved like even in elementary school I was like witchcraft. I wanted to know about witchcraft.
Okay.
And so I just had such a curiosity and I wanted to be able to be clairvoyant. I wanted to be able to see things. And I went to a healing school. So after Reiki, what I loved about Reiki was how gentle it is. And
Mm-hmm.
I learned to read energies, but I felt a longing to go deeper with people
Yeah.
and work a little faster. And so I looked for a healing school where would teach me how to go deep and fast. And I ended up at a school in California. And through that, I discovered that I'm not clairvoyant in particular. It sort of developed over the years, but that I had an inner knowing.
Okay. So what's
And
the
but
difference between the two, between clairvoyance and inner knowing?
okay, so like we'd have someone in front of the class and they'd say, "Okay, what do you know? What are you seeing with this person?" And some people would go, "Oh my gosh, I see this red aura or I see this yellow." And I'd be like, "I don't see any of that."
Uh-huh.
And so it really made me doubt myself. But then when I would tap in, it was like, I don't know if anyone can remember slides in the old like slide shows. Um,
The slides,
yeah,
like
like slides, like we've sort of aged out of those, but
on the
you know,
projector.
yeah, exactly. And in
Yeah,
the
yeah.
projector, like a slide would when you click
We're
the
old enough
slide,
for that.
yeah, the
If there's
slide,
any millennium listening,
yeah.
imagine it's like a PowerPoint presentation.
Yeah, but with only one at a time. You can only see one. And so it was like all of a sudden the whole thing would come like a slide would click in. So I'd be looking at someone and I wouldn't see the red colors and I wouldn't see the yellow, but it was like I just had this knowing of a story almost. Like suddenly
Mm.
I would go, "Oh, now I understand what's going on with this person." And so it was a different experience. It wasn't hearing it
So
exactly.
it's
It
more
wasn't seeing it. It was
intuition.
just, yeah, I would just have this intuitive, but like the whole story would kind of click in.
And curiously, like how, so when you were to tell those people their story, so like I imagine it became very accurate because you're working with that right now. So were you surprised to be able to do that when you
Oh my
were
gosh, totally. And then it's surprise, tons of self-doubt. You start to think like, am I making this up? And anyone who's out there who's watching it, like you may feel like, if you're getting intuitive messages that you're making it up. That's a common thing. But then, so part of it is having the courage to speak it, right? I would
Mhm.
actually go, like bring up my courage and say, here's what I got. And they go, yes, that's completely right. You go, oh, okay. And also, it would often surprise me. And that's part of how I still to this day know that it's not coming from me,
Okay.
because I myself get surprised. I'm like, oh, who knew? Like it's really
Well, that's
one
what
of
an
my
intuition is, right? It's sort of, you just, I have a bit of that too. Like I meet people and I can see, like I don't trust myself enough, I guess, but I can see sometime, that I can kind of read their face and read their body language and understand that there's something that's stuck there. And that's, as a coach, it's very useful, that sometimes it
yes.
pry me to ask questions that allow the clients to go a bit deeper and to really go deep into their understanding or what the feeling or why they're not moving forward or anything like that. So, but I'm curious, like I find it very interesting. I never really explore it much deeper. And I guess to a point, did you feel like, for me, I feel it's a little bit scary, to trust that, to move
Yeah.
forward. And
It is. I totally agree with you. And I used to be scared all the time. I would say, oh, please, please let it work this time. Like, and it did
mm,
every single time, but I would still have those doubts for
yeah,
years. Not so
yeah,
much
yeah.
now, but for a
After
long
a while, you kind
time.
of believe yourself.
Right. You do it enough times that it shows up and you're like, okay, this is something I can count on. But
Very
it definitely
interesting.
wasn't how I started. I definitely started with like trepidation and like, you know, trying things out and saying something. And and one of the challenges sometimes with intuitive information is that you don't know what it means to the other person.
Hmm.
So like I might get a message that seems like not that important or um, doesn't make sense to me. It might make perfect sense to you.
Hmm. Hmm.
So part of it too is not filtering and trying to nice it up or pretty it up for the person. You can feel like, oh, I don't want to hurt them, but like the message is the message, and I get to
Yeah,
to
yeah.
give it to them and not worry so much about how it'll be received, because people, I think, you could tell me if you agree with this, Denise, people want to be seen and known.
Hmm.
They
Hmm.
want to
For
feel
sure.
understood.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, saying that, it reminded me, I had a session with someone a few months ago, and all of a sudden she says, like from an intuitive healer, and then she said, "Oh, that's kind of weird. I see you sitting, on your father's lap." Right? And she was like, "Is that some because not every kids always sit on their father's lap, right? Is
Hmm.
that something that says anything to you?" And in my family, my mom and dad, as an adult, as a kid, obviously, but even throughout my life, my dad passed, he was 20, I was 24. And but through there, like I would go and sit on his lap, not for an hour, but I would go and give him
Hmm.
a hug and sit on his lap even as an adult. And for me, when she says that, I was like, wow, this is really weird that you're telling me this right now. It brought tears in
Right.
my eyes, because it was just
Yeah.
like such a cherished moment, that I've had with my parents all the way through, right? It's just a way of, like in the end, like my mom, I would sit on the arm of the couch and then, go hug her. And,
Mhm.
she was frailer in her 80s, but, but I
Yeah.
remember,
Here,
like,
mom, I'm gonna sit on your lap.
like, but you have the idea, right? Like just the
Yeah.
closeness and the,
Yeah.
so it's very interesting that you said that you just see these things, and for you it's insignificant, while sitting on your dad's lap, but for somebody else that might mean a lot more.
Exactly. Exactly. And that's one of the challenges sometimes with sharing intuitive information is you're like, I don't know what this means exactly, but can I take a chance and share it anyway?
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And so that's one thing, but how do you help people removing like energy block, like when they come to you because they want a resolution for something, right?
Right.
So
Yes.
they either have limiting belief, as the topic was, or they have like blockage energy, or they don't let go of something. So how do you help them overcome that?
Well, people don't come to me because they think they have an energy block, right? They come to me because they're really unhappy with their job
Hmm. Hmm.
or their relationship isn't what they were hoping it
Yeah,
would be,
yeah, yeah. They
or they're
want some
struggling with
changes
their kid
somehow.
or something, right? Like there's always something external happening. Um, but where I work with people is to understand, why is that happening? Like, go beneath the surface and really, um, I think we are always empowered to make changes in our lives, even if it's around what somebody else is doing, right? How we act or react can shift the relationship completely.
Mm-hmm.
But a lot of times I think people, they know that they're frustrated, but they're not sure what to do about it.
Okay.
And so this is where I really combine coaching and healing. I became coach certified first, actually, before I became a healer. And while I like coaching and helping people identify what will help them, but I found a lot of people, when they would have coaching, they'd run into some big energy block. And they wouldn't call it that, but what it would be is, there's some belief, there was
Mm-hmm.
something deeper that was getting in their way.
Yeah.
And if we just focused on, well, what's your action steps, we were never going to get to the real shifting.
Yeah, because that would always be a boulder that they would nut
Exactly.
themselves against, right? Like I've experienced that too, and I use my intuition,
Yeah. See, you're
to
using
help
it more than you realize, I think,
I
Denise.
use my intuition to get them, go around it, or dig a
Yeah.
hole through it, or whatever they need. But
Well, I often find, I mean, I will even use the senses. So, having people, like, where in their body do they feel something? And
hmm
I find lots of people aren't aware. They never thought about it, right? So, when you're dealing with your spouse who's making you crazy, like, where in your body did you hold it? Oh my gosh, it's in my stomach. Okay. Well, let's look at that. Like, how long has that been there? Wow, I've had this feeling. What does it feel like? Oh, it feels like this big rock that's sitting on my stomach. And what color is it? How does it feel? So we really get into, like, the description of it. How long has it been there, or what age were you? And very often it's like, oh my God, it's been there since I was 5, or my whole life. And now we realize this reaction to your husband is not about your husband. It's about something from your
carry
past.
on, yeah, carry on something from the past
Yeah.
that they felt uncomfortable then, but then it's a pattern that they kept in their life moving forward, and then it's show up with their husband.
Exactly. And so when we can heal it at that level, like, what does your inner 5-year-old need? And what does she want to say? And sometimes we go on journeys and we have conversations, even with people who are dead. It doesn't matter, because you can still have that conversation of what you really wanted to say, but you
Mm,
couldn't because you were 5, and what you really wanted to hear. And we can shift the energy that way. And all of a sudden, they come back and now they feel differently about their husband,
mhm,
or they feel more compassion for themselves, because I think that's where so much of it is. When we are in judgment of ourselves or hard on ourselves, which most of us are, that comes out at, right, at other people too.
yeah, yeah, I teach a lot about self-compassion,
Yeah, exactly.
learning that self-compassion is not self-esteem. Self-compassion is more about, yeah, it's hard and that sucks. And admit that you're in there and give yourself love and support like you would a friend, right? Like self-esteem is
Exactly.
like, no, it's all good. I'm happy. I can go through that. But that's good to have that. But self-compassion, it's more like acknowledging the suffering that you're going through,
Yeah.
and giving yourself time and love and support yourself, right? Like go have a bath, have a warm glass of tea or
Right.
water, or
Yeah.
like just take care of yourself a little bit so that you can, you know mend your wound. Like a
Well,
cat or a dog, when they're sick, they're gonna go quiet in the corner and they mend themselves, right? Like they go lick their wound, and then they're okay after, and they're playful. So we can go sit
yeah.
quiet in the corner and lick our wounds and take the time, right?
Or
We're often
journal.
too harsh. Or what?
Or journal.
Or journal, yeah, because we're too hard on ourselves. I found a lot of time where we're pushing ourselves to the limit in a way that we would never ask of anybody else's, right?
Oh, I 100% agree with you. And that's actually you like, your approach is very similar to my approach, right? So very often when people will tell me something, I'll say, let's just pretend the roles were reversed. Pretend
Hmm.
I was saying this to you. What advice would you give me?
Yeah,
They're like, oh, I would tell you to be nice to yourself. I would be like, yes, exactly. And that's how you get to treat yourself.
yeah,
Because
yeah.
most people are very, like, treat themselves in a way they would never tolerate from anybody else.
And it brings me to think that it's kind of for them to increase their own intuition, right? So how can people do that more? How can people increase their own intuition and be more self-aware? How do you work with them with that?
Yeah, that's a great question. And yeah, I do have a course coming up. If anyone's interested in the Say Yes to Your Intuition course, that's going to be
Oh,
coming up
cool.
soon.
Awesome.
Yeah. And what I love about the course, I mean, I've read books, you can read books on intuition, and that's great for knowledge. I'm all for it. But the real challenge is the saying it out loud, the practicing,
To be
the
in the
taking the
action.
risk.
You know, I call
Exactly.
that just for a joke, right? Not a joke, but it's true. I found, like, for example, you take a book, you read it, it's like, wow, it's such a great book on intuition or on
Right.
anything, right? And say, oh, I love that. And as you read it, you kind of practice. And then you take that book and put it on the shelf, and it
Right.
becomes shelf help and not so much
Right.
yourself, because you don't apply what's in there. So that's why a course like yours, and any coaches that provide coaching and courses, it's to help integrate, right? And I guess that's what
Exactly.
your course is doing,
That's
integrate
exactly,
it
it's
more.
practicing in a
Hmm.
safe place, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Because I think it's very hard to
Guided
practice with,
and
like,
mhm.
family and or strangers or anything when you're not sure of yourself, or when
Yeah.
you're, when you're in the learning mode, you wanna practice in a safe place where if you get it wrong, no one's gonna, shoot you down for it.
Yeah,
So
you call your neighbor or your mom and say, "Hey, I want to practice my intuition work on you," and she's like, "You're full of beans," like
right,
it's like,
right.
I don't believe in that crap.
Well, right, exactly. I mean, and that's part of it too, like that sense of community that you're not on your own, because I mean, we probably both know that. I mean, I feel like, intuition and Reiki, they're pretty widely accepted within a certain like, they're not like it, especially intuition isn't this crazy, only for the woo-woo people.
Yeah.
But to actually practice what you're getting, like that,
Hmm.
I think feels really stretchy and uncomfortable for a lot of people.
Yeah.
And there
Yeah.
definitely can be judgment around, like, what are you doing? So I want to create a safe space.
So tell me more about your course. So what does that involve?
So we learn different things, like, actually, and it kind of combines some of the things we're talking about. I like to look at limiting beliefs. I would say, for me personally, the most important thing that I got out of healing school was to get out of the way.
Mm,
That it wasn't about me as the healer, it was around me holding the space for the
yeah.
healing to happen. And I think that's true for intuition too. It's allowing, it's opening, it's letting yourself receive. The information's there. Everyone who's listening to this, you are intuitive, I promise. It's guaranteed.
Like an example of intuition. If people are like, I can give a couple, you can give a couple, but if you have once, I'll give you a couple examples that happened to me, and then
Yeah.
you will think, oh, that happened to me too. I was thinking of going on vacation in Hawaii, and I have a girlfriend. I knew she lived there, but we haven't talked in 15 years or 10 years. And I was like, oh, what's her email? How can I be in touch with her? The next day, I get an email from her. All there was a subject line in French, hello, hello, and that's it. No message, nothing. She sent me an email and say hello. I was like, what
Because
the
she was feeling like your energies
hell?
were
But
meeting in the
goosebumps
end.
thinking about it, right?
Yeah.
So that's
Yeah.
one thing, right? Or when did you thought of someone in the phone ring,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, I love
So,
that.
so that's intuition. We all have it, right?
Right, absolutely, and we're all connected energetically. I mean, I really believe we're all from one source, whatever name you want to call it, I don't care, but, we are all connected. And there's even research that shows that people from one country can pray for someone in another country that they've never met or seen, and people in that other country feel it. Like, there's,
Oh yeah.
time and space is just a construct, I think. We
Well,
are all connected.
yeah, there's more and more of that nowadays, like the heart coherence and
Mhm.
understanding that when there's 100 people meditating together, 100,000 people, 1 million people, like if we do
Right.
now more and more online event where people gathered and sent the energy of peace and the energy of healing and the energy of it affect the planet, the same as big event like 9/11. When it happened, there was a lot of negative energy and the whole planet felt it, whether in a negative
Right.
way. You could feel the energy go down, when,
Definitely.
like, if you could measure it. So the positive energy, negative energy, we all influencers in some ways.
Well, in fact, I remember a 9/11, of course, very well. If anyone who was around remembers it. Um, and afterwards, when they found out about Osama bin Laden, my response was to send love,
Mm.
because I thought, oh my gosh, there's already enough hate going on, because only from hatred
Yeah.
could you do something like this. And
Yeah.
so why do I want to send? It's like adding gas to the fire. Why do I want to
Wow.
send hate? Let me send love. And it was very counterintuitive. And, it wasn't like, I mean, on a personality level, of course, I was very upset with the whole thing. But on a spiritual level, I
Yeah.
really felt like I'm very guided to send love.
Actually, I agree so much with you because my philosophy is that, like, I give love to everyone, and
Mhm.
even, like, somebody that does something really bad, and that say exactly what you said, like, that person must have suffered so much and have so much repression in their life, like whether it's a um, somebody that kills someone or a rapist or whatever. Yes, what they do is bad, and I don't negate that.
Right.
But the person as an individual, must have suffered so much,
Right. I
that in order
exactly,
to
I
get to
agree.
that point, that sending them love, it's like healing their heart a little bit, and helping them to repent, or to, whatever they can do afterwards if they're not getting killed. But, like, it's like the prison is filled with people that are suffering, really.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I'm the same way. And again, we're all human. We have our human reactions to things,
I'm
which
not sure
are
a lot of
quite
people don't
which
agree with what we're talking about right now.
right. They might not, but the thing is, like, that it's I mean, even like lately I've been sending love to both Ukraine and Russia,
Mhm, mhm.
because again, for Ukraine, of course, to support them. Well, I mean, again, wherever you believe, like, I am supporting the Ukrainian people, but I mean, those Russian soldiers, I think a lot of them don't want to be there. And even Putin, I'm sending him love,
Of course.
because, again, like, how do you make a decision like this? It's not a
Mhm.
decision from love. To invade another country is not from
Yeah,
love. So we
yeah,
get to, help elevate, like, how do we break through the darkness
yeah.
except with the light?
I don't wanna get too much into the politic in here, but there's always 2 side to a coin. So
Right.
people are
Yeah.
easy to point the finger and say, "Oh, he's such a bad guy," and this and that, but there's always more to the story. The media want
There's
us to
always
know
more.
one thing, but, if we take the time to look at both sides, then sometimes we might think differently, and be more loving and caring and understanding. So let's get out of politics
Okay,
and
we'll get out of politics. But but part of it, and this is like connect to what you were just saying, which is there are facts. There are things that happen in
yeah,
life, in our own lives,
yeah,
and then there's the stories that we create around those facts.
yeah.
And two different people can see the same facts and create different stories.
Amen.
And it's really our stories that affect our lives.
Yeah,
More than
yeah.
any facts, it's the interpretation and the stories we make up.
We're talking the same language here, so I'm like, yep, yep, yep. I have an exercise where I tell people, okay, you experience something negative, write about it. Tell me everything that you don't like
Mm.
about it. Now, write how you would have liked it to happen, because, it's your new reality. You can choose to have this new reality as opposed to the old negative, energy draining reality, and
Right.
learn that new reality, because you learned the old one. you know you can learn the new one now and move on and live that life as if it was the new one. You create the first one, why don't you create the second one?
Definitely. I love that. And, I've done things too where you have people, I've had people tell their hero story. So some place where they feel like a victim, I'm like, okay, rewrite that story, but you're the hero.
Hmm.
And when we think about a hero story, any movie with a hero, right? There's something that they have to overcome. A hero story is not, I woke up, everything went well in my day, and I went to bed. Like, that's
Yeah,
not much of a story, right?
yeah.
But there's always some challenges that the hero has
And
to
they overpass that.
overcome, that
Yeah,
then that helps them grow and become better. And
yeah.
we all have that. Like, no matter what challenges have happened in your life, there is always the opportunity to look at it through the hero lens. Like, okay,
Yeah.
this was my initiation. This was the mountain I had to climb, but look at the view from up here.
Yeah.
Look at how I've learned and grown. So I think there's really so much power in story.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And you were talking to me about the earlier pre-recording. You were talking about journaling and keeping track of what's happening. So tell me more about that. How people can help themselves through that.
Right. So, well, all right, there's a couple different ways. So one of the things you asked about was how do people increase their intuition?
Mm-hmm.
So journaling actually can be a good way where for some people, and it's different for different people, right? I believe in working whatever works for you. Sometimes I don't feel like journaling, so I just record
Yeah.
for my
Yeah.
phone. But you can actually do just blank writing. You just write and you see what comes up. And sometimes really interesting or surprising things might come up. Um, and so that's one way of journaling, or kind of to more what you were speaking around, Denise, which is um, I like to look at when things aren't going the way you want in your life. That's like an arrow that goes, oh, but then what do I want? And what
Mm-hmm.
happens is a lot of times people focus on what they don't want. Ugh, I don't want this job. I don't want to be broke. I don't want this marriage. And it's actually really challenging when you say, well, what do you want? People sometimes have a tougher time articulating that.
Yeah. Yeah.
But when you can help them actually write about what is it that you do want and how is that showing up for you? And another thing that I have people journal on sometimes is gratitude,
Oh yeah, definitely.
right? Because we know from a vibrational standpoint, the gratitude is a high vibration.
Mm-hmm.
And the higher your vibration, the easier it is to get intuitive messages. So when
Well, it's
we
like being open, right? I mean,
yeah,
you're
exactly. When we raise our
like, if you're like
vibration,
that, you don't
right,
see anything and you don't hear anything. It's like, oh, like the little monkey, right?
right.
But
Right.
if
Or
you
when you're
open
feeling, I
yourself
mean, again, I believe in all feelings. Just what you were talking about, I totally agree. As one of my teachers said, like play all 88 keys on the piano, right? I it's okay to be angry. It's okay to have shame and grief. And like this is part of the human experience. We're here having a human experience. Let's have the full experience. And so, I think it's okay to feel any feelings. And we don't want to necessarily live that way all the time. We can feel like a victim, we can be pissed off, whatever. But now, how do we also then raise our vibration to love, to peace, to joy, to gratitude, and look for those glimmers of light even within the darkness?
yeah.
And from that place, then it's much easier to tap into our wisdom.
Yeah. 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 We're in positive intelligence and mental fitness. We always say, and that's what I said earlier in my intro, that whatever happened in the past, like, yes, it's a situation. It's okay to grieve for a minute, 5 minutes, 10 minutes, whatever you
Yeah.
need, but not months, not weeks, you know. But then
Exactly.
realize that, be curious and find the gift into that situation, and how is that going to help you grow? What are you learning from that experience? How can you move forward in your life that can bring you different outcome in the future? And sometimes we don't know the gift until much later, but then
That's
be
right.
open that there'll be one, and that not to dwell on the negative, because as you mentioned earlier, the more you think about the negative, the more you'll get of it. That's, the focus will go where your thoughts are, right?
Right.
The
It's kind of
action.
like skiing. I don't know. Do you ski? You ever gone skiing?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
When you're skiing, they say like turn your body in the direction you want to go. Not your skis, your body. If you're facing down the hill, you'll go down the hill. But if you're facing the woods, you will definitely go into the woods.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Right. So if we're facing into what we don't want, we will go there.
Yeah, same as driving, right? Wherever
Right.
you look, that's where your
Right.
your steering wheel's
Exactly.
gonna go
But if
when
you
you first
if you if
start.
you want to go down the hill, you better be facing down the hill, even if that's not the direction you're going right now.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
that I think
That's
that's
that.
it. Like how do we align to and even discover what we want? For some
Hmm.
people, they're not clear what they want. I had a healing client who was really unhappy with her job but didn't know what she wanted, and we worked together for a while, and she, as she kind of got rid of some of her old baggage, some of the things we were talking about, let go of some of the resentment about the employer who laid her off, she suddenly started remembering. She's like, oh, I love flower essences. Oh, I love astrology. And she started, like taking classes and things, and you could just see her blossoming
Yeah.
as she reconnected with her passions that
Yeah.
she had
Yeah.
buried for so long.
That's great. That's great.
Yeah.
And so we're coming close to an end now. So tell me how can people protect themselves energetically? Because there's a lot of negative energy going on around us right now, right?
Oh, that's a great
And
and really important question.
and
Yes.
how can we protect ourselves so that we don't get bombarded by all the negativity? First, I will give the first answer. Turn off your TV. Then go ahead. Continue.
Don't watch the news. That is a good answer.
Exactly. Don't watch the news. Don't read the paper. Just the headline, and that's it.
So, it's a really important question, because especially for people who are interested in opening up their intuition,
Hmm.
I am such a huge, huge believer in the importance of energetic protection. And I had some personal experiences of when I first started becoming, started studying healing and Reiki and all these, and then
Hmm.
went to healing school. And I was like, yeah, I heard about protection, but I didn't take it that seriously. And I started um, like getting really emotional about things that I was like, why am I so upset by this? I couldn't relate to it. I would trip over nothing. I would get sick. I would like one thing after another. And I finally went to somebody who's like, you're not protected at all. I was like, oh my
Yeah.
God. So I did some energetic protection, and instantly everything stopped. All of those things
Hmm.
stopped. So from
Hmm.
that moment on, that was a long time ago. And I've had other experiences, but that was the most dramatic, where I'm like, okay, it's super important if you're going to work in energies to protect yourself.
So I saw that you have a challenge coming up,
I do. I do. I'm very excited about it. So the way
and
that
that
I've
would
designed,
help people do that, right?
it's a 5-day challenge, and it's like 10 minutes a day, because I want to make it. I mean, I'm busy. Everyone's busy, right? So I try to make it super manageable. So it's about 10, 11 minutes a day. But the way I did it was using each of the like mind, body, or my spirit, and like using different senses, the fire, earth. Like, how do
Hmm.
we use these different elements in order to protect ourselves? Because each of the elements actually has different forms of protection, and that way you could pick the things that work for
So,
you.
sorry, people will see me laugh and say, "Why is she laughing?" I had to say it. When you say they use the earth, the water, and that to protect themselves, the image I had is the ostrich that put her head in the ground to protect herself. She used
Right.
the earth to protect herself.
Not very effectively, but yes.
I hated that
If
picture.
I can't see them, they can't see me. That's not how we want to do it.
But
Right.
because I was laughing and I wanted people to, is she laughing at, Linda?
So, like, some people like to use incense, or I use Palo Santo, which is a stick of wood from Peru.
Okay.
I love the smell of it. That's good smoke. Or the sage. There's lots of, that's just one example, right? Using
Hmm.
fire. And but it's a great way to cleanse yourself, the end of the day, or the end of, you've had a tough interaction with someone. Just light a little fire and clear off your energy. And it's actually really powerful and very
Hmm.
simple. And that's what I like, are very simple, easy to use things, but that work and can clear you energetically. Even, if you're taking a shower in the morning, some of it's about your intention. You can get into your shower and just take a shower, or you can get into your shower and say, I'm setting the intention that this will wash away
Hmm.
anything that doesn't belong to me.
Yeah.
Right. So it can be really, really fast and simple around the intentions that we set. Some of it's just being conscious of it and doing it consistently.
Because it's amazing what the brain can do, right? Like the brain is the major CPU of our body.
Right.
And if we tell it what to do, it will just do it.
Right, exactly. And this is actually a good example of like focusing on what you want instead of
Yeah.
what you don't want. Instead of like instead of thinking, oh no, I've got all this stuff on me. It's like, okay, brain, protect me.
Yeah.
Align me to my highest vibration. Help me to
Wonderful.
to be really the person that I want to be today.
So the information will be on the chat on how to reach that challenge. So read the chat if you're watching
Yeah,
this
it's
video.
free. It's 5 days, like less than an hour total for the whole week. And you'll learn some really fun, fast, easy ways to protect yourself. So
Wonderful.
I hope that people will take it.
And you have another gift also for people, a video.
Yes. So we haven't talked about intuition, and as you said, I have a course coming up on intuition if anyone's interested. But I've also sort of give away some of the information, not the information in the course. I always add to it, but some things around how do you really step into your intuition more. So if anyone wants to learn some of the tips and some of the tricks that I've learned over, 25 years of studying intuition, then you can watch only like I think it's half an hour, but it's a
Oh,
half an hour
wonderful.
video, and it will walk you through some ways to increase your intuition.
Like a summary of, understand.
Yeah, and some information on things to think about and
Awesome.
things to do.
Perfect. So I'll share that in the chat.
Great.
And then people can also reach you through your
To my
uh,
website, yep.
website.
Innerclarity.biz.
All right, that's simple enough.
Can I just tell you a quick story?
Yeah, of
I
course.
was like I was like struggling for years with what am I going to call my business? And I don't know if you've ever had that, but I was like, I don't know what to call my
I
business.
called it
And
my
then,
name, Denise. But
well, that helps too, actually, right? But so finally one day I'm like, I just want clarity. I just want inner clarity on what to call it. And I was like, oh,
oh,
inner clarity.
and it was available.
And then yeah. So yeah, .biz. I couldn't get .com, but I went for
Yeah,
it anyway.
there
So
you
yeah,
go.
so innerclarity.biz. That's how I got the name.
Yeah, I chose, like, if you look above your head, there's my logo there, which is In
Yeah,
Motion Coaching. And the reason why I chose, it's a butterfly,
I like that.
and it goes with what you were saying earlier, that it's been demonstrated that the flap of one wing of a butterfly can create a
The
hurricane at
ripple.
the other side of the continent, right? That
Right.
little wind can send out. And also, in motion coaching is like, if you are in motion, regardless of how much you're moving, you're working towards your goal, as opposed to sitting here and hoping that things will happen, right? So that's
So
the premise of my business.
it's a good thing I'm not called stuck coaching. If you really want to make progress, go see Denise with In Motion. But if you don't want to make progress, come to Stuck Coaching.
If you like watching the news and sitting on the couch, go to
And
Stuck
feeling really bad about
Coaching.
yourself.
Yeah, I'm sure these people would make a lot of money. I might have to edit that. No, I won't. But that's no. We everybody can make some changes, and it doesn't. Some people think that it's like, oh, I'll have to change my whole life, and that's why, like, if you just do little changes, like I often give that example, like this is, the same line, and if you make like 1%, and that's more than one, that's at least 10. If you make 1% difference and you move forward, eventually
That's
you
right.
will have done a big change. Like I tell people, if you want to walk more, start with 1 minute and add 1 minute every
That's
day.
right.
So if you tell yourself, can I walk 1 minute? Yes, I can. Okay, so you walk for 1 minute, walk around your living room, because 1 minute doesn't, by the time you get out and come back, it's 1 minute. And so, but 2 minutes, 3 minutes, 5 minutes, if you add it all up, can you walk one more minute? Like, really,
Right.
can you walk one more minute than yesterday? The answer is yes, right? I mean, what's 1 minute? But at the end of the year, the
Right.
biggest problem with that would be that you need 365 minutes to do your walk, but you will be able to do it because you can do one more minute,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah,
So
yeah,
it's
I love that. I like that visual too, because you're absolutely right. I think sometimes people are afraid to come to a coach or a healer because they're afraid they're going to have to change everything in their life.
mm-hmm.
But everything's at choice.
Yes.
Everything's a choice,
And
and
the
sometimes it
coach
is
is
just
not
little
the one.
things.
Yeah, the
That's
coach is
right.
like, we're not telling people what to do.
Right.
They choose what they want to do.
Absolutely. And I
Yeah.
think when I was, I think I told you when I went to healing school, I was like, what's the fastest, deepest I can go? And I
Yeah.
learned over time I had to pull back.
Yeah.
That I get to
Yeah.
be paced by the client, not my
Yeah.
pacing. This is to
Exactly.
honor them and their pacing.
Because I'm sure you have clients, they want to take it by the spoonful.
Mhm.
And there's other clients like, give me the shovel, right?
That's right.
But
That's
then
absolutely right.
but then it's everybody's different, and then you can, and even though sometime I imagine that says, okay, give me the shovel, you say, no, let's take a spoonful at a time, because you can feel that having the shovel, that's not going to work for them, right?
Exactly right. Exactly.
They're going to run away. It's like, it's way too much. You say, you know so that's
Yeah.
good. Well, what a
And that's
fantastic.
another good example of intuition, right? Which you
Yeah,
probably are using all the time, where
yeah,
you get a feel for what's going to be right for that person
absolutely.
and adjust it for them.
Well, if you want to work with Linda, you'll have her information in the chat, and it's worth exploring. I'm sure you have, a
Mm.
session people can do to test it out also.
Absolutely.
And
Yeah.
so it's on the website.
There's a free 30-minute chat that we can have just to see if I'm the right fit.
Yeah.
And I actually also do free monthly channeling sessions.
Well, wonderful. So
Yeah.
contact Linda to know
Yeah.
more. She'll
So if
tell
you
you
want
all
to,
about what she
yeah.
has for you. Go to our 5-day challenge. Right now, the next one is April 11 to 15. And if you're watching this and April's past, just go to her website, send her a message, and she'll tell you when she has the next challenge. And there's always more.
That's so true.
one
Always
one
more.
is not enough. There's always more. So thank you so much, Linda. I'll let you go for a sec. Stay there. So thank you so much for those that have listened all the way through. Please like this video. If you're watching this on YouTube later, please subscribe and click the little bell so that you're notified whenever I do more videos. I appreciate you. I love you. Thank you so much. And until next time, be kind to one another, and I'll see you here next Monday at noon Pacific time. Goodbye.